that is exception handling. Okay. Okay. Today we are going to start with completely a new concept, that is exception handling. All right. All right. Now let us start. So, guys, one more time I am saying this. Uh, just a second. Some people are asking me, sir, how many days still it will be there to complete these sessions? Okay. Okay. Core Java. Guys, could you please tell me how many days it got completed? Not right now. Gaurav will discuss that tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, okay, Gaurav. Guys, I'll let you know how many days it's going to take. I'll let you know. Please wait for it. Okay. Right, 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 right. Okay. Now, so guys, today we are going to start dealing with exception handling. Okay. Now, today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow also, we need to discuss about this exception handling. Exception handling will not be completed within one day, guys. No way, no way. Okay, 3 days. Up to Thursday, we'll be dealing with exception handling. And after that, I'm going to start discussing about multi-threading. Multi-threading. Multi-threading, literally, it's going to take nearly 5 to 6 days. 5 to 6 days. That is a huge concept. It will take nearly 5 to 6 days. Anyways, we'll discuss about that. So today we are going to start discussing about exception handling. Now, guys, before going to this exception handling, first we are supposed to have an idea about what is an error and what is an exception. What is an error and what is an exception? Why? Because see, most of the time people will be thinking that these both are same. No, 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 guys, completely different. Error is different, exception is different. Okay, so first let us try to have an idea about what is an error and then what is an exception. Like, what is the difference between an error and an exception? Okay, now class A, I'm just simply trying to have a method, void method 1, system dot out dot println 10 syso 20 syso 30. Okay, let me go to my main method, please. Main method. Now, inside my main method, simply I'm going to take, I'm creating, sorry. Okay, I'm creating an object, new class A. Okay, no issues. New class A dot method 1. Just simply calling my method 1. And you already know that if I execute my program, yeah, I'm going to get my output, that is 10, 20, and 30. Am I right or wrong? Guys, you need to please respond in the chat for me, please. Please respond in the chat. Please respond in the chat. We know that our output will be 10, 20, and 30. That's very, very simple output. Now my question is, if I remove this semicolon, if I'm trying to remove this semicolon, what happens? If I'm removing that semicolon, what happens? Let us check this. I'm removing that semicolon and come on, I got an error. Let me just try to execute. Right click, run as Java application, and yes, what I got an error. So what I want to conclude here is, if there is an error, my program will be terminated. I will not be able to see the output of my program. One more time I am saying this. If there is an error in my program, my program will be terminated. I cannot execute my program. I believe it's clear, guys. Okay. Now, let me just try to divide a number by 0 and let me execute it. Right click, run as Java application. Now, my first question is my program execution completed? Means Am I getting my output 30? If I'm getting my output 30, then only my program execution is completed. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, sir.
See, my question is very, very simple, guys. Is my program execution completed? Yes or no? No. My program execution did not completed. Why? Because did I got my output 30? No, no, no. I did not got my output 30. I got my output as 10, and at line number 8, I got an exception. At line number 8, I got an exception. Means my program started, but it got terminated. It got terminated abruptly in the middle. So why it got terminated? Why? Because there is an exception. There is an exception. So if there is an error, let me just try to execute my program. Right click, run as Java application. Now, is my program terminated? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Is my execution terminated? Yes. Yes. If there is an error, my program execution is terminated. And if there is an exception also, right click run as Java application. If there is an exception also, my program got terminated. Means, guys, let me conclude like this. Very, very simple. Error, program will be terminated. Exception, program will be terminated. So then what is the difference between an error and an exception? Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. If there is an error in our program, I repeat, if there is an error in our program, we cannot save our program. 100% our program will be terminated. One more time. If there is an error occurred in our program, we cannot save our program. In simple, we cannot handle errors. 100% your program will be terminated. But if there is an exception occurred in our program, we can handle that exception. We can save our program by handling that exception. Now here, I want to say one small point. Most of the time, what people will be thinking, exception handling means removing the exception or resolving the exception. No. Exception handling means we will be providing an alternative way to continue the program execution. Means after handling the exception also, still the problem will be there. But our program will not be terminated. I'll show you. Guys, very simple here. Tell me one point. Error. Can we handle or not? Respond. Error. Can we handle them or not? That is perfect. We can't. Exception. Can we handle them or not?
Yes, handle them.
That's it. As simple as this. So just let me try to write like this. Error. Just a small statement. If there is an error in our program, our program will not be, just a second. If there is an error in our program will be terminated. I'll write like this, will be terminated. We can't save our program. We can't save our program. In simple, errors can't be handled. In simple, errors can't be handled. Just a second. Just a second, guys. Those checked exceptions and
చెప్పండి.
unchecked exceptions. There are basically two types of exceptions are there. Just two types. All right. Very good. What are those checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions? Sir, what are checked exceptions and what are unchecked exceptions? All right. Now, before understanding checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions, I have a small question for you. The question is, when an exception occurs, when an exception occurs, an exception always occurs only during compilation time or runtime.
Runtime.
Guys, please help me out. An exception always occurs during compilation time or runtime. When read the point. An exception always occurs during when compilation time or runtime. Guys, please read the second point. Read the second point. Read it. Just read. You'll understand. Take a minute time. Read the second point. Okay. Now tell me. When an exception occurs, only during runtime. Exactly. But some are detected at compilation time and some are detected at runtime. Detection is different, occurring is different. Okay. Now, how many types of exceptions are there, guys? Two types. What are those? Checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. Okay. Checked exceptions. Just let me try to. Okay. Two types of exceptions are there. Checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. So, what are checked exceptions? The exceptions, hang on, let me try to use this one. Same color. Okay, no issues. I'll go with normal. So, what are checked exceptions? The exceptions which are detected at compilation time by the Java compiler are known as checked exceptions. Let me just try to, okay. Now, what are checked exceptions? The exceptions which are detected at the compilation time by the Java compiler are known as checked exceptions. Okay, are known as checked exceptions. Right. Now, what are unchecked exceptions? Okay, the exceptions which are detected at runtime by the JVM are known as unchecked exceptions. Are known as unchecked exceptions. Okay. Now, one more time. What are checked exceptions? The exceptions which are detected at compilation time by the Java compiler are known as checked exceptions. What are unchecked exceptions? The exceptions which are detected at a runtime by the JVM are known as unchecked exceptions. Okay. Let me just try to box them, please. Okay. Now, guys, very simple question here. Very simple question. Could you please tell me how many types of errors are there?
3 types.
How many types of errors are there? How many types of errors are there? 3 types. Compile time errors, runtime errors, logical errors. Right. Exception. When an exception will be occurring? When an exception will be occurring? Only during runtime. Only during runtime. But how many types of exceptions are there, guys?
2 types.
Please tell me how many types of exceptions are there? 2 types. 2 types. What are those?
Checked exceptions.
What are those? Checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. Yes, checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. The exceptions which are detected at the compilation time. The exceptions which are detected at the compilation time by the Java compiler are known as checked exceptions. The exceptions which are detected at runtime by the JVM are known as, tell me, are known as unchecked exceptions. Okay. Let me ask you very simple question. Unchecked exceptions are detected by whom? Unchecked exceptions are detected by whom?
JVM.
Perfect. JVM. Checked exceptions are detected by whom? Checked exceptions are detected by whom? Perfect. Java compiler. When checked exception will be occurring? When checked exception will be occurring? Occurring. I am not asking detected. Occurring. I am not asking detected. Occurring. When checked exception will be occurring? During compilation time or runtime?
Checked exception.
Runtime. Every exception always occurs only during.
Runtime.
Tell me. Only during
Runtime.
runtime. Exactly. I believe it's clear, guys. Anna, please tell me. Is that clear? Yes, yes. Very, very simple. Literally very, very simple. See, the thing is like there are two types of exceptions: checked exception and unchecked exception. Here you need to remember one small point, that is an exception. An exception always occurs only during runtime. An exception always occurs only during runtime, but some are detected at compilation time and some are detected at runtime. The exceptions which are detected at compilation time are known as checked exceptions. The exceptions which are detected at runtime are known as unchecked exceptions. Checked exceptions are detected by the Java compiler. Unchecked exceptions are detected by the JVM. That's it. Not more than that. I hope it's clear, guys, for everyone. Okay? Right. Now, I have a small question. The question is just a simple question. Just a simple question. What happens? What happens if there is an exception occurred in our program? What happens? What happens if there is an exception occurred in our program? Sir, what happens? The program will be terminated. Yes, yes. But technically, something will be happening here. Let me just try to answer that. Okay, guys, please check this. Please check this. I'm intentionally trying to create an exception. 20 by 0. Let me execute. Right click, run as Java application. And I got an exception. And my program got terminated. Yes. Yeah, that is correct. I'm not saying no. Bhagirashmi, exception is different, Amma. Error is different. Okay, please don't mix them. Exceptional error, no, Tali. It's not available. Is that clear, Lakshmi? Exception is different, error is different. I hope it's clear, Amma. Great. Okay. Now, please check this, guys. So now, if there is an exception occurred in our program, immediately what happened? Our program got terminated. Yes. Now, what is the question here? What happens if there is an exception occurred in our program? Okay. Now, guys, I actually have a small question for you. Could you please tell me? Generally, where an exception will be occurring? Where? I am not asking when. I'm asking where. Where? Check the note point.
Runtime.
Check the note point. You'll understand. Check the note point. Point number 1. Where an exception will be occurring? Only inside a method or inside a block. Okay. Now let us consider that. Just let us consider that an exception is occurring inside a method. Java method. Just think that an exception is occurred inside a method. Okay. Whenever an exception occurred inside a method, what this method will be doing, that method will create an exception object. This method, whenever there is an exception occurred inside a method, that method will create an exception object. It consists of name of the exception, that exception object. Method will create an exception object. That exception object consists of name of the exception, reason of the exception, like why that exception has occurred, name of the exception, reason of the exception, and complete info about the exception. Complete information. Info means information about the exception. So what I'm trying to say here is whenever there is an exception occurred inside a method, I repeat, whenever there is an exception occurred inside a method, that method will create an exception object. That method will create an exception object. That exception object consists of name of the exception, reason of the exception, complete information about that exception. Now, this exception object will be sent to the JVM. This exception object will be sent to the JVM. What JVM is going to do, JVM is going to take the help of the JVM is going to take the help of the default exception handler. JVM is going to take the help of the default exception handler. Default exception handler. Now, what this default exception handler will be doing? Default exception handler is going to check whether this method is having any exception handling techniques or not. If we write any exception handling techniques, then this entire exception object will be sent to that exception handling techniques. If you did not write any exception handling techniques, then JVM is going to terminate the program and it is going to print some exception related information in the console. Guys, very simple concept. No need to get confused. No need to get confused. Listen to the concept very clearly. You already know that an exception will be occurring only inside a method or a block. Am I right or wrong? Please tell me.
Yes, sir.
Please tell me. You know that an exception occurs only inside a method or else inside a block. Okay. Whenever an exception occurred inside a method, what happens, whenever an exception occurred inside a method, that method is going to create an exception object. That exception object consists of name of the exception, reason of the exception, and some information related to the exception. That exception object will be sent to the JVM by the Java method. Okay. JVM is going to take the help of the default exception handler. Sir, what is this default exception handler? Guys, it is present in every Java program. What it is going to check, it is going to check whether this method is having any exception handling techniques, whether we have written any exception handling techniques. If we wrote any exception handling techniques, then fine, this object will be sent to that exception handling techniques by the default exception handler. If we did not write any exception handling techniques, then JVM is going to terminate this method by printing some normal exception related information. Let me show you. For example, I'm trying to execute. Guys, please tell me. In this method, at line number 8, we will be getting an exception. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, sir.
I want you to please respond. Respond. Aditya, respond. You need to respond, Aditya. I'm waiting for your answer. I'm not sure whether you are present or not. Anyways, no problem. So, yes, at line number 8, we will be getting an exception. Let us just try to execute. Guys, before executing my program, please answer my question. Did I write any exception handling techniques here? Did I write any exception handling techniques? No. No. I did not write any exception handling techniques. So, let us execute. Right click, run as Java application, and My program got terminated. Could you please tell me which exception occurred? Name of the exception. Name of the exception.
Arithmetic exception.
Arithmetic exception. Why that exception has occurred? Because, sir, you are dividing that number by a 0. Where that exception has occurred? Sir, exception has occurred in line number 8 in method 1. From which method you are calling that method 1? We are calling that method 1 from main method. From which line you are calling that method 1? In main method line number 13, we are calling that method 1. Guys, did you understand the point here? I want you to kindly please respond, guys. Aditya, I believe you got your question. Yes. So this is the information related to the exception. Okay, but is our program executed or terminated? Is our program executed or terminated? My program got terminated. Why my program got terminated? Why? Because there is an exception occurred in our program. And why it got terminated? Why? Because we did not. Tell me. Continue my statement. Please continue my statement. Why the program got terminated? Why? Because we did not handle the exception. Exactly. We did not handle the exception. If we did not handle the exception, obviously our program will be terminated. Now, one more time. See, guys, the question is very, very simple. What happens if there is an exception occurred in our program? So, generally, where an exception occurs only inside a method or else inside a block, let us assume that an exception occurred inside a method. Whenever an exception occurs inside a method, an object will be getting created. That exception object consists of name of the exception, reason of the exception, complete information related to that exception, and that exception object will be sent to the JVM by the Java method. JVM is going to take the help of the default exception handler. Default exception handler is going to check whether this method is having any exception handling techniques or not. If you are having any exception handling techniques, then this object will be sent to that exception handling techniques, or else JVM is going to terminate our program by printing the exception